Hi, everybody. It's me, Charles Norman, Sports Solutions LLC. We are the creators of AthleticSOS. In this one, I want to be really careful so I don't say the wrong thing here, but I want to talk about Youth Sports Incorporated. And I'm surprised no one's taken that name. That'd be a great name for somebody to get if they want to. I actually looked into it, but we're moving in a whole different direction. But it's going to be really, really important that I think the youth sports innocence thing is becoming a big issue for a lot of the parents, a lot of the people that are around youth sports as we move forward. There's a lot of organizations, a lot of them are concentrating on the leagues that are around, how the kids play, the referees, the parents, how they behave, the coaching. There's coaching training for youth sports because it's just think about it. Really, when you get to the younger kids, it's a lot of parents that want to coach and help out and have their kids have the best experience possible, but they don't really know how to teach the game. So people are a lot of putting things on to make that happen, to get the parents up to speed. And so that innocence of the kids just kind of playing sports for fun, right? They go out, they go to the park, they hang out, they out in the field, they may be gone all day. Some sports, they may be riding their bikes or their skateboards, or they're just having fun. And so that's sort of been taken away, that innocence that our kids had as far as just kind of growing up. It's all now organized, it's incorporated, it's institutionalized, it's basically not fun. It's adults getting in kids' business, if you can put it any other way. And so that's happening. What I want to talk about in the world that we're in at Sports Solutions, I'm really, really fixated on that age 5 all the way through 17. How do we fix that? How do we bring that fun back to sports, but still use it in a way where we don't overrun the people that are trying to help? One of the big things that kind of concern me about a lot of this stuff is even the organizations that are trying to come up and bring some order to youth sports. To me, they're nonprofit, so I'm not saying it's a money grab, but in order for them to be effective, they need to have some government backing, right? They need to have the cities and municipalities, maybe the federal government. Somebody needs to recognize them. They're going to have to create some sort of certificate programs to say, oh, you passed this thing, you're officially learned all of these lessons that we think you need to know as an official, as an organization, as a coach, as a parent, as whatever it is that's going on. They're going to have something set up, which means now makes them the arbiters of what is right and what is wrong and what can happen and what can't happen. And now you're right back in the same problem. Now, maybe they'll fix it. There's some great people. I've been to a couple of meetings for different groups and organizations. I know what they're trying to do, but they're going to have one major problem. And this is the problem that I've seen since I was a kid, but even when I was coaching my kids years ago. What happens is the best players don't play by the same set of rules. And so they're not going to go for that. So what you're going to end up with, you're going to have these leagues, you're going to have these organizations, you're going to have these certification programs, you're going to have all this stuff organized. That's for the kids whose parents are not quite sure what they're trying to do. They're just bringing their kids to have fun. The rec leagues, those organizations I talked about before, your AYSOs, your NJBs, your whatever is for the particular sport that you're in. As you're beginning and you're trying to learn and trying to see if your kid's going to have that kind of talent, those people, that's what those rules are for. That's what those organizations are going to be able to control. But they won't be able to control the other kids, the ones whose parents played professional or they played college or they kind of know the sport or they're already coaching or it's an individual sport or something like that. They're going to have a tough time managing those people. And what happens there is as the kids start to grow up, especially the better kids that just came in and all of a sudden they just have this talent. They pick the right sport for what they do. Those kids are going to want to be with those other kids, the better kids. And so they're going to start moving away from these organizations that are making all these rules for them. And now that other organization gets watered down, it's not as fun. If you're not playing on the team with the better players or playing against those better players, iron sharpens iron. So if you've got something there, you're fledgling, you might be pretty good, you're not going to get a chance to play against those other kids. And now you got a problem. Now you can't have that kid that just kind of stumbled into it. Parents didn't know what they were doing. They want to become good too, because the better coaches are going to go over to those other organizations also. And you're just walking yourself into a problem. One of the things I keep on saying to you guys, if you guys have watched me over and over again, you cannot legislate stuff like this. You just can't do it. I don't care how many rules you put into place, what you're trying to do. I'm not saying you shouldn't try to do something, but if you try to pull off this, oh, we know best, it won't work. It doesn't work anywhere in the world. And I know a lot of people watch me from all over the world, but the one thing that's always set the United States apart was that we let people have their freedoms, their individuals. They get to make decisions on how they want to move forward. You can't keep making rules for everybody. And so I don't want to come down, because without these organizations, without these people trying to do what they're trying to do, it would be even worse. I always say you need to have some people protesting and pushing back against just pure capitalism, right? Pure corporatism, all of whatever you want to call it. You got to push back against that. But Youth Sports Incorporated, it's coming. And I have taken this summer and really dug into what's going on out here. What has actually happened, and how can we fit in? And so one of the things I've looked at is the changes in professional sports, because it was the first one. And the funny thing about sports is that compared to everything else is that it's one of the few things. I think sports and gambling to me are the two things that you don't know what the outcome, the thrill of being there at that moment. Maybe if it's gambling, you put a bet down and there, you pull the lever on the machine or the dice roll, whatever is going on, cards are dealt, whatever's going on there. There's some skill involved in some of these things, but at that moment that it happens, that thrill inside of human beings is just there. And the same thing with sports. That underdog team, that when that bell rolls or the whistle blows or whatever's going on, at that moment, you don't know what's going to happen. Anything could happen. And that's a thrill. So you need to watch it in real time. And when you see something amazing, I've been watching the Olympics also the last week, and I've watched everything. That moment, you're not quite sure. They've led up to this person that's supposed to win the medal, the gold, and all that, and they give you the backstory on there. I mean, you're all excited, you're good to see it, and then somebody else comes in and sneaks in, somebody that you forgot about, because over the last year or 2 years, because it's only every 4 years, last year or 2 years, they didn't win the championship series. They didn't win whatever happens in between that time, but at that moment, they show up. And the funny thing about sports also is there's people that train and train and train, that on the day that the trials happen in that particular last race or that last whatever's going on, they didn't make the cut. And they've been doing all this work all the time, and some other kid gets in or some other person gets in there. And so those are the things about sports, is that it doesn't matter on that any given day, anything could happen. And it's why it will always be enduring. It's why as we start to get into this world of AI and things like that, sports is still going to be where corporations and people want to put their money, because people are enthralled by it. They see somebody do something they know is amazing because maybe they dabble in that sport and they can see the best of the best. And even if you don't know anything about a sport, you can see somebody that rises to the top, somebody that rises to that moment. I never really watched the Olympics like I did this year, but that is nerve-wracking, anxiety-filled stuff. If you're really into something and you're watching it, even if you don't know anything about it, you know at this moment that person's got to go, or this person's last, that they need this mark, these points to win the gold, or they're going to fall back to, maybe out of contention or something like that, and they come through. That is the magic of sports. And so you can't duplicate that doing anything else. There's nothing artificial about that. Either you can do it or you can't. You can't have robots doing it. You can't have any artificial. It's hard to cheat. Sometimes we see it. Maybe somebody doesn't get the score we think they should get if it's a scoring type system instead of a speed or a timing system. But we know who won. We can feel it. We can see it. We can see people fight. That's what we want. That's what we want. And here's the bottom line for this. And I say this all the time. All most human beings want is an opportunity. If you give an opportunity to everybody, and then some people decide they don't want to do it, that's fine. But most people just want an opportunity. Now, the problem is that we've come to this world where we want certainty. And that's where I'm trying to go with this now. So let's start with the professionals. So in the pro world, it's all corporate. We get it. But the pros have a unique situation. They can have few teams on professional. There's a few professional teams, but millions of people all around the world will watch them. It's very personality driven, but it's also organization driven. Where you grew up, where you were born, what country you're in, whatever that sport that's popular there, if the professional organization there, you're going to get attached to them. And so you want them to win. And so you're invested. And these are millions and millions and millions of people, right? So few organizations, millions of people attached to those organizations. That's an easy way for corporations to make money. You attach yourself to that organization. You attach yourself, you do media buys, you sponsor, all of those things that you want to do. And so the money can flow pretty easy. It works really well. Now, the things they've been able to do in the U.S. over the last few years is they've gotten the professionals that are really talented, your all-stars, your all-team, whatever it is, your best of the best players. When they go in to renegotiate, they negotiate on their behalf and they forget about the people behind them. And so, or the people that are in the middle, the people that are that assist them in becoming who they are. They forget about them a little bit when they're making negotiations because they want all of those sponsorship deals and the media deals, all the things that are behind the scene outside of your salary, because the organization, let's just take the NBA or the Major League Baseball or the NFL or whatever it is, the organization is making all the money off the players. It's the way it feels, right? Because the players, without the product, it doesn't work. But there's so many people that want to be in that position that you can overplay your hand unless you're really the superstar. And then at some point you're going to fall off and then they're going to discard you anyway. So those players are trying to make their money while they have the opportunity to do it. And they're trying to find ways outside of just salary to make that money. So sometimes they will undercut the people coming behind them because, hey, they've done the hard work. They have the talent. They have the ability to do that. And that's in America, that's just the way it is. If you're not at the top, sometimes you're going to get cut a little bit. So that's just the way it is. But what they do is they get them to vote when they do these negotiations, these player deals for the organization, for the Players Association inside of these professional source associations. They don't think long term. They don't think about the people that are coming behind them. So anyway, so that's the pros. It's corporate. It's just the way it works. The other thing they're doing in the pros is that they are starting, especially in the U.S., if you start looking at the U.S. professional teams, you see a lot of foreigners coming in. And I nothing against foreign. I don't even think that's not where I'm going with this. But what I'm saying is that the teams, so everybody is trying to come up in the United States. They're playing sports, they're playing youth sports, they go to college, but they're trying to get to these professional teams so they can make money off of their abilities, right? But what does the corporation say? You guys are asking for too much money. The more you ask for as workers, the more they're going to try to find a way around it. I don't care what industry you're in. If you are a worker, whoever owns that company, whoever is supporting that company financially is going to find a way to get around you if you're costing them too much money. And so they're bringing in foreign players and they're paying them, but they're getting a bigger audience at the same time. If I bring somebody from another country in to play on this professional team, I gain those people from that other country as viewers, as people that want to buy the gear. So it just makes a lot of sense for the corporations, but it leaves somebody from here that may have been able to make that team also, that may have been able to rise up and get that money. They're just kind of out of luck on that. And so that's what's happening in the professional world. I don't want to get too tied in that because that's not where we play. The next is the college world. And this one's the most interesting to me. It's gone through the most changes. Now, if you guys have been watching me, I talked a couple of years ago about how the NCAA was just shooting itself in the foot, right? They were losing case after case after case in the courts. So the NIL is here now, right? The name, image, and likeness. And so now the college athletes can use their name, image, and likeness to make money for themselves. The colleges are trying to corral all that stuff. The lower level colleges are completely confused on what to do about it. So they're kind of just letting it go. They're not putting anything together on campus, or they just don't want to talk about it. You can go figure out what you want to do on your own, that kind of thing. But the other thing that happened is the affirmative action situation happened, right? There was suits about affirmative action. So that kind of dictates a lot of the sports stuff too. And then you have the consolidation of teams, right? So you've got a lot of teams. We had this for our Pac-12 on the West Coast. A lot of those major teams, USC, UCLA, they're all moving to other conferences, but the Big Ten or wherever they're going. And so that's weeding out some of those schools. But a couple of really big things that just happened in the last couple of months is, one, starting in 2025, they're going to be able to actually pay the athletes. So imagine you get to college, you get a scholarship. Now they've got NIL, and now they can actually pay the student athletes money. So that's a big deal. So all of those things are coming at the same time. And then the last thing that's just happening now is that starting 2025, 2026, their rosters can expand. So this hasn't been officially approved yet, but it's coming. And so what that means that the football team, instead of 85 players, are going to have 100-something players. Baseball is going to do it. All the different sports are going to be able to add more players. But here's the thing. You don't have to add more players, but you can. So some of the smaller schools, again, how much money do they have to spend on their sports program? And what's going to end up happening, the bigger conferences, the bigger teams, the teams with more money, they're going to be able to pull more players in as backup players and take players away from some of those other colleges, because if you can get to this college over here, then that looks better on your resume. And maybe you really believe that you can beat out somebody over here that's already there. So you want to go to that bigger school, and they have the money to do there. They have the facilities. They have all of this cool stuff. It's already there. So that's going to be a big deal. And you guys can look all this stuff up. I'm not making any of this up. But what the other thing it's going to do is it sounds like there's going to be more athletic scholarship opportunities. That's what you're thinking in your head. But what's going to end up happening is it's going to be the reverse, because what's going to happen is the smaller schools can't compete. And so they're going to start dropping programs. And that's where you're going to run into trouble. And that's why I keep on saying everybody thinks they're winning all the time on the back end. But I don't see corporations and the big boys. They never seem to lose. They drag stuff out. And in the meantime, you think you're winning and the court date's coming up, but they're planning in the back room what's going to happen. And here's the key for this for college, and then I'm going to get off the college and start talking about the youth. In order for you to expand the number of people on your team, you've got to give a reason. You've got to come in and get approved by the NCAA. Now, how does that work? And I'm not against the NCAA. I'm not coming for anybody. I'm just trying to convince you guys that you have to be smart enough to understand that no matter what happens, you cannot really beat them, but you have to understand what the game is so you can position yourself to put yourself in the best position to win at the very end. That's the only thing I can say. So imagine the team, the college decides they want to expand. They're going to, instead of 85 football players, they're going to have 100-something players. And they want to bring the other players in, but they got to write down they got to get approval from the NCAA. The NCAA is just back in control. They're right back in control again. So these are the kind of things I want you guys to think about as you move forward. You want to get this athletic scholarship, all these opportunities out there. I want you guys to be informed about what's coming. So if you're graduating 2025, 2020 and beyond, I want you guys to get ready for that. And then the other thing is, soon as the Paris Olympics are over and the next Olympics is going to be in LA. So as soon as that ends in Paris, you're going to watch the onslaught for youth sports hit really, really big. It's going to be the next frontier. And so one of the things I want to throw in here now, if you have a daughter and she's really athletic, get her into flag football. No matter what else she's doing, if she's athletic, get her into flag football. That's going to be a big push coming up, and that's just me throwing that in. Now, let's get to youth sports. Youth sports is a little bit different. It's very difficult for corporations to kind of get a foothold because it's local, right? You've got all these youth sports teams. You've got all these organizations playing all these different sports, and there's not a monolith. There's no place you can come and say, oh, everybody's doing this. Now, for high school, you got the NFHS, the National Federation for High Schools. They kind of make the rules for the high school programs. And so they can make some rules, but they don't really control anything. The school districts control how they approach sports. The individual schools, which sports are they going to have on campus, which ones are going to be important, which ones are they going to push, all that kind of stuff. So it's very individual. And then for the youth sports, it's even more diverse, right? People are coming from all over, trying to get their kids just to get out there and play. How the training goes, there's no rules, basically, is what I'm getting at. And so if that is the case, then how are they gonna corral it? And I'm starting to see it this summer. I've been to everything you can go to. I've been to sailing, I've been to rowing, I've been to archery, I've been to volleyball, baseball, basketball. I mean, I've been trying to see how does this all work. I've gone to showcases and combines. I've been to viewing events for college coaches can come and do these viewing events. I've been to many things that I can go to. I'm actually exhausted. It's the end of summer. I'm so glad it's the end of summer, but I wanted to see what was coming. And the interesting thing to me, when my kids were coming up, all of these tournaments and things like that were all cash based. You come up, you pay, you get a little wristband, and you go in and you can buy the whole weekend, or you can just buy day by day. But now everybody's already prepaid. The teams have prepaid. The referees are paid through Venmo or whatever it is, whatever they're using to pay them. So there's no more cash. So that the first thing that struck me with that. And then I see the sponsorship. When you walk in now, there's just sponsorship after sponsorship after sponsorship for every program. But the other thing that I'm seeing is that the former Olympia players, the former professional players, the former collegiate players, they're siding off and making their own teams, their own programs outside of the normal groups that used to kind of control it. And so that's going to be where your problem is going to come in. Your kid, the kid that, you brought your kid in, your kid's okay. You find out that they're a pretty good athlete. You just wanted them to have fun. You didn't know anything about sports. You didn't really play yourself. And now your kid's pretty good, but they can't get over into that program. And so when corporations come in, this is what they were looking for. Okay, so now we only have a few programs we really have to push, we really have to sponsor, we really have to be about. And those are the kids that are going to be the next wave of, we just got to get them set up. So the money's going to start trickling down now. It's going to start going to those organizations that have the best kids. They're going to get the best training. Their parents already know what it takes to get to the highest level of the sport. how's your kid going to get in there? That is the question. And so the couple of things that I'm seeing now is that I'm talking about there. I'm watching religious organizations that are starting their own schools. They've got millions of people part of the religious organization. They have those kids. They're starting their own schools and their own sports programs. And so I see that coming. And so it's really, so that whole local neighborhood, Rec and Parks, YMCA, YWCA, those kind of organizations are going to struggle a little bit because they're sort of maybe a national umbrella, but they're kind of individual. Yes, there's a set of rules for how you play and how you move forward, but it's too much. They have so much control, but now that control is going to be taken away. So I'm saying all this not to be negative. I just like you guys to be informed about what's coming in. So what do you do so innocence is gone, right? So your kid is going to be a superstar. They're going to be picking out the kids that are the winners or losers. So what does your kid do? What do you do? It's on you, parents. And so here's some of the things I think you should be looking at. One, if your kid should be looking at all the different sports. So don't just come out and put your kid in a sport and then that's it. That's because that's what they do in the neighborhood. You got to find a sport that fits your kid, that your kid can go out there and they seem to feel that sport, that it's something they want to do. And you can watch your kids even before they hit 5, 6, 7 years old. What are they doing when they're 2, 3, 4? Are they athletic? Or do they take to something? Get them involved. And then so once they get to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 5 through 9, let them try multiple sports and see if there's something that clicks with them, something they just want to do in their spare time anyway, something that you can see that light come on when they're experiencing it, that they ask, hey, are we going to go back and do this? Or we're going to go do that? You've got to do that thing. So that's the first phase of it, because that's going to be something they can get better at. I'm reading a book called The Talent Code. It's really a cool book. You guys should all get that if you can. In fact, I'll put a link down for Amazon to buy it, but you can buy it anywhere you want. Don't have to buy it through my link. But it's a tough read, though. You got to kind of want to read it. But the idea there is that the kid that wants to do that, usually by the time they're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, they've been doing it for a long time. You just didn't see it because their parent did. They go with their parent. Their parent already knows how to play the game. Their parent goes to practice. Their parent is, a collegiate level. Their parents already coaching them without even thinking about it. They've already rolled the ball out or got the bat or got whatever the tools are to play the game. They've already instilled that. That kid's already ahead of your kid by a mile. And so these are the kind of things that you want to do. You want to get your kid into something they'd be interested in and then kind of get them down the road to start playing around with that. I know it sounds so early. It sounds terrible, but the kids want to have fun anyway. And you might as well have fun doing it your way. Then the next thing is, and I say this to you guys all the time, is whatever sport your kid's going to play, if you want to go and do all this stuff, then they have to be the best version of themselves in that sport. That is the secret to success in sports. From youth sports all the way through the collegiate, through Olympics, through professional. If you want to get there, you've got to take a sport and become the best version of yourself in that sport. What is it about that sport? And this is where I tell you guys, what do you see in that sport? Where are the holes? Where is something that your kid, one of the things I would recommend you do is, what is the purpose of the sport? Let's say you're playing baseball. Can you hit? If your kid can hit, then that kid is doing with that sport. If you're playing basketball, can that kid shoot? Right? So whatever it is that you need to be able to do, then that is what it is. Does your kid have something special about that? You can look at your kid and see if they have something special. So we're still going through this thing, right? This is all on parents. This isn't on the organization. This isn't on the